Canadians take time each November to remember service, to remember sacrifice, and to remember the thousands of Canadians who never came home to the loved ones waiting for them. Cy Cottingham is one of those Canadians, a local boy who responded to the call and paid the ultimate price. To honor him, the Comox Valley Airport bears his name, and his family takes pride with this.
We feel that he represented the youth of the district. Indeed, there were many casualties in our district who gave their lives for their country.
Cy joined the Air Force right out of school, and after training became a bombardier, one of the most dangerous and deadly jobs of the Second World War.
The efforts of the Royal Canadian Air Force, particularly in Bomber Command, was at the highest level of suffering and loss. It's interesting to note that a person serving on a heavy bomber in the Royal Air Force or Royal Canadian Air Force during the Second World War had a shorter life expectancy than an infantry officer in the First World War. During the Second World War, over 17,000 members of the Royal Canadian Air Force were killed in action. Over 10,000 of those were killed in heavy bombers.
Cy Cottingham literally grew up around the present-day Comox Valley Airport. His family homesteaded in the Lazo area, and Cy was a local high school graduate. However, the airport bears his name more for what he did than where he came from.
Cy Cottingham, of course, flew with the Royal Air Force as a pilot in the Lancaster aircraft, and I believe his last mission when he was killed with his crew was his 19th bombing mission, which is indicative of the hazards the crews faced in those days. We had tremendous losses in Bomber Command, and unfortunately Cyril and his crew represented one, and here's someone who paid the ultimate sacrifice, doing what he needed to do to defend his country's interests and his national interests.
It's more than just having served. We must remember that he joined the Royal Canadian Air Force as soon as he graduated from school. He headed off, he went through the British Commonwealth Air Training Plan, and he went over to Britain, where he joined 49 Squadron of the Royal Air Force. That was a heavy bomber squadron, and he was flying a Lancaster on a raid to Berlin, which was the longest and toughest of the night bomber raids. His airplane was shot down, and so he was killed in action. The shooting down of the plane was so catastrophic that his body and the bodies of his crew members was never found. His name, his sacrifice, has been written on the No Known Grave Memorial at Runnymede in England. And so when we're deciding what to name an important public building in the Comox Valley, it's somebody who's more than served. It's about somebody who's made the ultimate and supreme sacrifice for his country.
Remembrance Day brings back memories, and even if they're 70-year-old memories, the pain can still be there. Pat Cottingham sings with the Evergreen Choristers, and one song in this year's program tugs at her heart.
The song that I can hardly handle is Coming In on a Wing and a Prayer. I always think of his plane was apparently put down in November. We had the news on November the 23rd, 1943. And so November is the time that we feel closest to him, you know.
At the Cy Cottingham Airport in the Comox Valley, I'm Mark Henley.